We begin the movie in medieval England, specifically in a circus located near London, where there lives a hunchbacked clown who has no name. In this circus, he is constantly called Hunchback and is subjected to various types of torment and humiliation, all to make the audience laugh, even in the face of his own suffering. Despite his apparent disadvantage, Hunchback demonstrates remarkable intelligence, and in his free time, he takes the opportunity to learn about medical sciences, using the few books he can find. He is deeply in love with a woman named Laurel, who at one point falls from a considerable height during one of her performances. Witnessing this accident, Hunchback rushes to help Laurel, and simultaneously, a man named Vict0r also approaches to offer assistance. After examining Laurel's injuries, Vict0r, who is a doctor, informs Hunchback that her breathing has stopped due to a fracture. However, Hunchback refuses to give up, and using his intelligence, continues to try to save Laurel, eventually managing to revive her and make her breathe again. Impressed by Hunchback's cleverness and determination, Vict0r begins to pay more attention to him, emphasizing that he should not live as a clown in a circus. The owner of the circus arrives and tells the audience that this is all just a show for the night. The doctor offers help and says that his hospital is on the same road where the circus is, but the man refuses this offer and asks him not to disturb the clientele. The doctor, before leaving the location, is stopped by Hunchback, who begs him to tell his name. The doctor introduces himself and says his name is Vict0r Frankenstein, and then leaves the site. Later, recalling Vict0r's words, the circus owner becomes furious, as he does not like the idea of a clown behaving intelligently, and in a fit of rage, burns all of Hunchback's books. He then locks him in a cage intended for animals. Even trapped, Hunchback worries about Laurel and asks for information about her condition. The owner mocks the situation and says she will die, as there is no hospital in that place, and soon leaves him alone in the cage. However, luck seems to smile on Hunchback, as right after being imprisoned, Vict0r, who is fascinated by Hunchback's intelligence, decides to come rescue him. Initially, Hunchback refuses to leave the circus, as he has never been outside in his entire life. But Vict0r's persuasive words end up convincing him to accept the long-desired freedom. As soon as the circus owner finds out that the escaping clown is free, he quickly begins a search to recapture him. During this pursuit, one of the circus members ends up accidentally killed by a thrown knife. Not allowing himself to be disheartened and determined to continue his escape, Hunchback and Vict0r manage to flee by infiltrating an underground water tunnel beneath the circus tent, safely emerging onto the streets. After they manage to escape, they head to Vict0r's house. Upon arriving there, Vict0r asks Hunchback to take off his clothes and approaches him wearing strange clothing. Hunchback fears for his life, as he has already suffered a lot and refuses, asking what he intends to do. Vict0r manages to get closer and tells him he is not a true hunchback and that he will help him. He does this by extracting fluid from his hunchback and attaching a device that would help Hunchback walk upright like a normal human. Once the treatment is finished, Vict0r realizes that since Hunchback does not have a name, he should now be called Igor, a name that belonged to an old housemate of Vict0r's who never returned. Then, Vict0r goes to his underground laboratory, leaving Igor behind. The next day, a police investigator named Turpin arrives at the circus to investigate the recent incident. At first, Turpin does not believe that the clown committed murder intentionally in the circus. However, when he finds a red bag at the crime scene, he orders his subordinates to look for the clown with murder allegations. The reason for this search is that Turpin discovers a lion's paw in the red bag he found and believes that this case is related to his ongoing investigation into the theft of animal carcasses. Because of this, no matter what happens, Turpin must find a way to capture both the clown and the man who helped him, who is actually Vict0r. Knowing that they are being hunted for murder, Igor understandably feels terrified. But Vict0r's words, in which he claims he is no longer a hunchback clown, end up calming Igor. Later, due to the situation they are in, Vict0r shows Igor his research. He presents Igor with a pair of preserved eyes and explains his work, quickly activating an electrical device on his desk that makes the eyes come to life. Igor, inadvertently demonstrating his intelligence, states that Vict0r made a mistake in connecting the nerves between the eyes. Not wanting to waste Igor's intelligence, which seems to understand and comprehend the work, Vict0r, in his eccentric manner, immediately asks Igor to help him with his research. Unaware of the true purpose of this, Igor follows Victor's instructions and helps repair various organs from dead animals, such as hearts and lungs, so they can become functional again. At one point, amid their activities, Vict0r unexpectedly invites Igor to join him at a nobleman's party. Igor discovers that Vict0r is the son of a nobleman and a respected figure in England. However, at the party, Vict0r loses control. Due to intoxication, he incessantly discusses ways to reanimate the dead. During his speech, Igor spots Lurel, who is now recovered and is at the party. Unable to contain himself upon seeing the woman he loves, Igor quickly runs to Lurel. They exchange a brief conversation, during which Lurel finally recognizes Igor as the clown who saved her life at the circus. Over time, they grow closer, while Vict0r invites her to drink something. However, once again, Vict0r continues to discuss his investigations about bringing the dead back to life. After the party ends, satisfied with his completed research, Vict0r reveals to Igor what he created in his underground laboratory. A partially decomposed body, composed of a combination of different animals and organs, which ends up being, essentially, what Igor has been working on. Naturally, upon witnessing such a creation, Igor hesitates. Vict0r's claims should be about saving humans from death, not resurrecting strange creatures like the animal carcass before him. However, upon seeing the creature come to life, Igor is pleasantly surprised, feeling the joy of seeing his work succeed. Vict0r plans to present his findings at the university and invites Igor to be his partner, making Igor feel valued and significant. Proudly, Igor invites Lurel to watch Vict0r's presentation. The long-awaited day arrives. It is the moment everyone has been waiting for. In front of nobles and university officials, Vict0r and Igor proudly display their work. However, unfortunately, after successfully reviving the creature, it suddenly goes out of control, almost attacking Lurel, who is present at the event. Upon realizing his beloved is in danger, Igor does not hesitate to try to attack the creature, forcing it to flee the room. Igor runs after it, but during the chase, he himself becomes the target of the creature and is attacked, almost falling down the stairs. At this moment, Vict0r appears and tries to help Igor by pulling the creature away from him, and reluctantly ends up killing it. Luckily, after everything that happened, Finnegan, a nobleman, becomes interested in their work and wishes for them to create another creature. After the incident, Igor refuses to create another creature and argues with Vict0r. Despite Igor's disagreement, Vict0r, driven by his madness and ego, agrees to Finnegan's request. In the following days, Vict0r begins working alone on the creation of the next human-shaped creature without Igor's support. Meanwhile, his father, a nobleman, arrives and reprimands him for past actions at the university. Vict0r's obsession proves to be dictated by the desire for recognition from his father, who has always considered him useless. Seeing Vict0r being criticized by his own father causes Igor to recall the feelings he had when he was a clown, leading him to decide to help Vict0r again. Together, they spend the entire night designing the next creature. Meanwhile, Turpin, who is searching for Hunchback, decides to go to Vict0r's house to investigate, feeling suspicious of Vict0r's actions during his presentation at the university. Knowing that his house is about to be searched, Igor returns after a meeting with Lurel and immediately enters to help Vict0r escape. However, while trying to help, Igor discovers a frozen body kept by Vict0r, which turns out to be the real Igor. Unfortunately, during a discussion about what he saw, Turpin manages to enter the place and points a gun at Vict0r. Not intimidated, Vict0r retaliates and manages to catch Turpin's hand in a machine and quickly escapes, boarding a train that Finnegan had prepared. The story continues at Finnegan's house after the successful escape, where Finnegan instructs them to continue their research in a secluded castle. However, Igor feels impatient and rebels, refusing to follow Vict0r any longer due to his madness, resulting in being pursued by the police. As a result, Vict0r leaves alone, without Igor. Unfortunately, as soon as Vict0r leaves, Finnegan captures Igor, as he has too much information about Vict0r's plans. Finnegan then takes Igor and throws him into a river with his hands tied. Defying the odds, Igor manages to free himself from the restraints and swim to the surface. The next scene shifts to Lurel's house, where Igor receives treatment after surviving the assassination attempt orchestrated by Finnegan. After a brief period there, driven by memories of Vict0r, Igor decides to rescue Vict0r before it is too late, as Finnegan revealed that he plans to eliminate Vict0r as soon as his research is completed. However, Vict0r prevents Igor from meeting Vict0r, not wanting him to get hurt again. Despite Igor's insistences, Vict0r eventually decides to accompany him to where Vict0r is. They set off together in a horse-drawn carriage, and, with Vict0r's help to distract the guards, Igor manages to enter the castle. Once inside, Igor is surprised by what he sees. The creature that he and Vict0r designed has been completed by Vict0r and Finnegan. Witnessing this, Igor sneaks up to Vict0r and discovers Finnegan's true intentions. A new debate begins, revealing that Vict0r's actions are driven by the desire to alleviate the guilt he feels for the death of his brother Henry, who was killed due to his actions when they were children. Vict0r explains that since he took his brother's life, he feels compelled to create new life to redeem himself from his guilt. Therefore, despite Finnegan's evil plans, Vict0r continues with his research, leaving Igor there and preparing the creature they had designed together. Finally, the long-awaited moment arrives. They release a balloon into the air to capture lightning and then direct the electricity to the creature. As expected, soon after the electricity passes through the creature, it begins to breathe and come to life. However, amid their joy, a new lightning bolt strikes the location, causing a power overload that results in an explosion, killing Finnegan. The remaining members of his group flee in fright, but the problem is still not resolved. After the explosion, the police, who have been on Vict0r's trail, arrive again to apprehend him, but it is too late. The creature Vict0r created has broken free. Vict0r approaches it, and Turpin, upon seeing this, does not hesitate to act. He quickly shoots at the creature, which unfortunately causes it to lose control and kill Turpin with a single blow. With the creature out of control, Vict0r and Igor are forced to join forces to eliminate their own creation. Despite their different abilities, they fight desperately against it. Igor, using an electric shock, manages to immobilize the creature and drives an iron rod into its heart. However, Igor forgets that the creature they designed has two hearts. As a consequence, the creature rises once more, striking Igor and leaving him unconscious before attacking Vict0r, who is already struggling. Luckily, Vict0r manages to grab an iron rod and quickly drives it into one of the creature's hearts, finally killing it. The next day, Igor awakens from his fainting spell, but upon looking for Vict0r, he is nowhere to be found. Vict0r appears and meets Igor, handing him a letter written by Vict0r. In the letter, Vict0r apologizes to Igor for what happened and encourages him to enjoy his own life. He explains that he will leave to continue his research, while the movie comes to its end.